Support for WMFE comes from JustCallMo.com and attorney Mo DeWitt. As a Central Florida native, Mo DeWitt is committed to offering legal guidance in personal injury cases such as car accidents and slip and falls. Offices in Orlando. More at JustCallMo.com. Welcome to Engage, leading conversations that matter. Engage is made possible with the support of inaugural sponsor, JustCallMo.com, and the support of listeners like you.
You're listening to Engage on 90.7 WMFE. I'm Sharon Stone. Coming up, Volusia County dips its toe into the rideshare pond. We'll look at the history of organized labor on Main Street, Disney World. And Engage visits a barbershop that provides much more than haircuts for the Parramore community. But first, people in Haiti are pleading for help where violent gangs are ambushing communities near the capital. Florida has the highest population of Haitian Americans in the United States. The state's Division of Emergency Management chartered a flight evacuating Florida residents from the Caribbean country. It landed at the Orlando Sanford International Airport last night. WMFE reporter Danielle Pryor spoke to the agency's executive director today. So, Danielle, what did you learn about that first flight?
Absolutely. So there were 14 people aboard, 14 Floridians aboard, including children who were evacuated to Sanford last night, and they all arrived safe and sound. And they're part of these rescue missions that are going to be continuing for the next few weeks or so.
I was going to ask you, will there be more specifically to Central Florida?
Yes, they're all going to be here to Sanford. They're all going to be between Haiti and the Orlando Sanford International Airport. And Director Guthrie told me he expects them to continue for the next week or two with the goal of eventually, hopefully, ferrying about 1,000 people from Haiti to the United States. Right now, they've already evacuated more than 400 Floridians back here from Haiti. And a lot of these are being done by helicopter. These are helicopter missions taking about 4 to 6 to 8 people at a time.
So with all the violence that is happening in Haiti, Danielle, how is the Division of Emergency Management even able to get people out?
Yeah, so he is, for obvious reasons, not revealing logistics of these missions for safety reasons. But like I said before, many are being conducted by helicopter and small plane, just small groups of people at a time, and they will all land in Sanford. And the reason for that is that all these statewide agencies have been set up there to help with resources. Here's Director Guthrie talking about some of the resources available for folks as they get off the plane.
Most of these people came with a backpack on their back. I think there was only 2 pieces of luggage for 14 people. So we have the ability to help them out with all kind of assistance to include hotels, a cell phone if they had to leave their cell phone behind. T-Mobile has certainly stepped up for that. We appreciate their partnership there. We also have other resources through the Department of Children and Families with the Office of Refugee Health.
The Florida Division of Emergency Management created this portal to help Floridians in Haiti. Can you explain how it's being used, Danielle?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a really easy online form that you can fill out. This is only available for Floridians or United States citizens, though, I should mention. And Director Guthrie said they've received more than 600 requests. And keep in mind, for each request, there could be several family members that are requesting help evacuating. So there's just this huge demand. But again, he's very hopeful in the next few weeks that they'll be able to, working with the State Department as well, get as many as 1,000 Americans out of Haiti. We've seen the 14 already come back, last night in Sanford. And also Representative Mills actually flew a mission over the weekend and was able to get several people from an orphanage there in Haiti as well. Director Guthrie said that if people want to use the form or help in any way, this is how they can do that.
So for the listeners that you have, the one thing we ask is if you know somebody that's a Florida resident, U.S. citizen, and you can contact them and you're in contact with them, that if they want to leave, you can certainly fill out the form on that person's behalf at our website. Again, that's floridadisaster.org/Haiti. Please fill it out for them. Make sure you let the person know you're filling it out for them so that when we try to make contact with them, they're not, completely caught off guard as to what's going on. But, you can help that way. we're trying to find governments that are in the Caribbean that are willing to work with us. So if you're a governmental official with the Dominican Republic, or Jamaica or Puerto Rico, or maybe the Southern Bahamas, Turks, Caicos, any of those areas around there that would be willing to work with us to help us get Floridians and U.S. citizens out, we certainly would take that assistance, and they can certainly call us here at the division.
Danielle, you've also spoken to Central Florida organizations that are working closely with the Haitian community, Faith in Florida being one of them. Can you talk to us about the relief efforts underway? What are they hearing about the needs of the Haitian community?
Yeah, absolutely. So I spoke with Natalie Setut. She is actually a Haitian Floridian herself, and she has many family and friends that are still there. And they have witnessed violence firsthand, even just as of last night. Here is what Natalie has heard over voice memo and over different apps. People are sending her messages in different ways, but here's what she's been hearing from them on the ground.
I just, every day I'm checking in on friends and family. I just spoke to one of my friends last night, and her family's home was attacked. Over the weekend, there were some attacks on the suburban areas in La Bourg, Pétionville of Haiti, and where government officials reside and other. This is a suburban area, usually quiet. There's not much activity, but there were heightened gang activity. So I called and checked up on her, and literally her mom was minutes checking their home and leaving because they had to evacuate. And a moment after, gunmen drove up and just started shooting at her mom's home. Luckily, her mom was out of the house by the time the gang members came. But honestly, there's no way for you to be mentally okay with that.
Natalie herself is a Haitian American, so what has this process just been like for her?
She said she's felt really hopeless. She's been really frustrated because the gangs have been really increasing violence, not just in the capital, but in suburban areas as well. And it's almost impossible to get humanitarian aid through because basically money and food and different things that are being sent are being taken by the gangs, or it's just not safe enough for people to even leave their homes to pick up that money. So it's been frustrating, and there's not much that she feels like folks can do right now except call on their representatives to really do more.
So what is next for Faith in Florida?
Yeah, so like I said, they're calling on everybody to write their representative, to ask for more humanitarian aid in Haiti and also more security for the people. She had also suggested that maybe there's a way that Florida could be dropping off humanitarian aid while they're doing these missions. Director Guthrie, however, said that may not be possible at this point, again, because they're doing these very kind of smaller missions, and the security is of the utmost importance right now to everybody involved. But this is Natalie just kind of describing her frustration with even trying to get things across to people back home in Haiti, and just how she thinks people here in Central Florida can help.
So how do we get these gangs to be disarmed? We need assistance with security. And what we are asking for is for actors such as the United States and those who are making the decisions to please move with urgency on releasing whatever funds and releasing whatever support that can be taken to start removing these gangs from these areas. That's what's going to be done. We cannot send money transfers to our family at the moment. Even if we were to send the transfer, they cannot leave their homes to go get the transfer. We can't send anything via raft, cargo. So a lot of the times we send actual supplies to Haiti via cargo, and they get intercepted by gangs. So food, medical supplies, all of that is getting intercepted by gangs.
WMFE reporter Danielle Pryor, thank you so much for sharing your reporting with us.
Thanks, Sharon.
So how did Haiti reach this point? Michael Dybert is an independent journalist covering global conflict and the author of Notes from the Last Testament, The Struggle for Haiti, and Haiti Will Not Perish, A Recent History. He joined us to answer that question.
The history of kind of politicians using these urban armed gangs, it kind of dates back to the late 1990s and early 2000s, and it was pioneered during the government of Jean-Bertrand Aristide and the Famille Lavalas party. When he was overthrown in 2004, in the ensuing years, various different political and economic actors, began, or rather continued, to use these armed groups as well. Things kind of got really bad, I would say, around 2014, 2015. The party, Parti Haïtien Tech Calais, PHTK, of former President Michel Martelly, also used these gangs. And as the gangs kind of got more powerful and they undermined the authority of the official security services in Haiti, such as the police, the state, the presence of the state and the strength of the state in these poor neighborhoods descended, and the power of the gangs got ascended and got more and more powerful. And so after especially Jovenel Moïse, the former president, was assassinated in July 2021, you had a situation where there was this complete state vacuum, which the gangs then rapidly filled. And they had different income streams now, such as kidnapping, extortion, drug trafficking, and they were less and less dependent on their traditional patrons in the economic and political sector and more capable of independent action, which is what they're doing now.
What is there anything different about what is happening now, or are we just paying more attention to it, something that's been brewing all along?
I would say definitely in the last 3 years, the areas of control of physical space that the gangs are occupying and they're controlling has been exponentially increased. The fact that now, they felt comfortable to send hundreds of guys to attack the airport, to attack the National Palace, the fact that they're going into areas above Port-au-Prince like La Boule in the mountains. I mean, this is really different. And I would say one thing that's important to see too is, there's basically not a functioning state in Haiti right now. The prime minister, who was not legitimate anyway, said he was going to resign. This transitional council hasn't been officially invested with any power yet. But individual units of the police and the army have behaved extremely heroically in the last couple of weeks, defending the airport, defending the National Palace, and working with these vigilance brigades, kind of, I would say, civilian militias that are forming to try and save the city and save the country.
We're speaking with Michael Dibert. What are you hearing from your contacts in Haiti currently?
There is certainly a push, I would say, of the different armed groups to kind of go in from the east and from the west in the hills above Port-au-Prince to meet and then to push down towards Pétionville and to the center of the city as their gangs push up the hill. And essentially that would mean that the entire city would fall into the hands of these armed groups. And so as a result, the police and these neighborhood vigilance brigades have been battling together against these gangs in various points of the city, obviously without any international support. I mean, this is a completely Haitian-led initiative in terms of resisting the fall of Port-au-Prince. But it is a very dire situation. I mean, for all the bravery of these local groups and the bravery of elements of the police and the army, these are very heavily armed and very ruthless gangsters that name numbers somewhere around 13 to 14,000 by my count in the metropolitan area.
Do you see any type of possibility of international intervention?
Well, there was this Kenyan-led peacekeeping force that has been bandied about now for months and months and months. And it seems to me fairly clear that the Kenyans are somewhat getting cold feet after the events of the last couple of weeks. So the question remains, will they come? And if they come, will they be effective? I mean, the force that the Kenyans are suggesting to lead would be very, very small, considering the forces that they're facing on the ground in Port-au-Prince. So I'm not sure if it would be that effective. And I think one other thing that's really important is that the gangs are a symptom of a larger systemic and structural failure in Haiti. They're not its cause. So the gangs exist because of the historical kind of exclusion and misery which these poor neighborhoods exist in. And a young guy in those neighborhoods, I mean, they see the gangs as perhaps an attractive alternative because they don't have anything else that's being offered to them.
Is there a way to even put into words or describe what is happening in Haiti in a way that the average person here can really start to comprehend it?
Yeah, I mean, I would say you have what was a really severe kind of security and criminal justice problem historically with the gangs that has now become a situation where they're threatening the existence of the republic, so to speak. And, in most of these poor neighborhoods where these gangs come from, 90% of the people in those neighborhoods have nothing to do with violence. They have nothing to do with crime. They kind of live under the thumb and at the whim of these different armed groups. But because of the dysfunction of the Haitian state and because of the lack of vision of a lot of the actors politically and economically in Haiti, not all, but a lot of them, they've been allowed, this kind of wound has been allowed to fester, and now it's blown up in everybody's faces.
What does a realistic and humane solution look like?
I think there are several aspects to this. I mean, I think obviously a sense of security and the dominance of force of arms by the official security forces has to be restored in and around Port-au-Prince, because that's completely absent from the lives of ordinary Haitians right now. But in tandem with that, I think there needs to be an integration, a very aggressive integration of these marginalized communities within the larger economic and political system in Haiti, because I think that's the dynamic that gives rise to these armed groups, is a sense of hopelessness and exclusion in these neighborhoods. And also one other thing that I think is really, really important. The traditional Haitian political class and some of the economic actors in the country have been allowed to get away with involvement in all kinds of horrible human rights violations, corruption, massacres, and the international community knows who these people are. And the fact that they keep getting recycled in the political process. I mean, the CARICOM endorsed transitional council that is being proposed as a solution is completely dominated by the same political class that brought the country over the cliff in the first place, and to the exclusion of civil society actors, religious sector, peasant sector, and these different groups. And I think that's something that has to change. I mean, the international community definitely has to, open its eyes in terms of who are the good principled actors in Haiti and who are the malefactors who have helped destroy the country.
Michael Dibert is the author of Haiti Will Not Perish, A Recent History. There's more ahead here on Engage on 90.7 WMFE. We'll see what's driving demand for a $2 rideshare in Volusia. If you miss any part of the show today, you can always subscribe to the Engage podcast and listen when it's convenient for you. And this program will be available on demand at WMFE.org. You are listening to Engage on 90.7 WMFE. I'm Sharon Stone. Ahead on this program, J. Henry's Barbershop provides top-shelf haircuts, but it's the namesake owner that makes it a nexus of the Parramore community.
Believe it or not, I was born in this community. I started cutting hair in this community in 1984 after graduating from barber school. Believe it or not, March the 27th of 1984. March 27th is coming up here shortly, in a few days. It's been a long time.
We'll stop by J. Henry's Barbershop to meet the owner and his regulars. Right now, though, there is a rideshare program operating in Volusia County that costs passengers $2 per person per trip, period. It's called VoRide. This new program is so successful that it's expanding from DeLand to Orange City, Deltona, and DeBary in early April. You might be wondering how a flat-rate $2 rideshare program actually works. Well, Bobby King is the director of Volusia County's Transit Services Division. She says it's beneficial to both the county's bottom line and to the transportation needs of riders. King joined Engage to explain what's driving the success and started the discussion by describing exactly what VoRide is.
It's a ride share. It's meant to be a ride share. That's what keeps the cost down for our riders and for government in general. Is if we're providing a ride share scenario, then the cost is kind of combined into all the 6 riders that will more than likely be riding together to and from location.
Is this just kind of a traditional ride share where you would book it on your phone?
It is. So it's an app-based, or you can call and do it that way if you don't have a phone. But yeah, it's very similar to people that have used rideshare scenarios in the past, except that it is a true rideshare where you will be paired up with other individuals to and from the routes. And so you may take a little bit more time to get to the location, rather than a straight trip like a taxi cab or an Uber or Lyft scenario.
How is this only $2?
So we wanted it to be similar to what our fixed route bus is, and that's right now is $1.85. And we wanted to make sure that it wasn't out of the realm of our usual users' income. And the paratransit is $3. And so we wanted to kind of encourage people that could use this service to maybe switch from paratransit to this service because it's quicker, it's more efficient. It is contracted to a company, and so they staff the driving and stuff like that. And so we've, for a long time, especially since COVID, have had issues with trying to build back our staffing levels. And so it's hard for us at times to meet the demand. And so if we can provide another contractor to help us with that demand, that helps our clients as well as our own staffing.
So it's $2 per trip per person per ride one way, but for some other people, it's also a lower cost?
So, right, we do have reduced fare, same as our fixed route service. It's half price. So it's $1 if you're over the age of 65 or if you have a disability. And if you're a child, of course, there's some reductions in costs there. And there's even a free service for children under the age of 7 accompanied by an adult.
When I think of rideshare, I think about safety and is it a safe for me to experience and is it a safe driver as well? How do you ensure that and vet that process?
So our contractor is required to have background checks for all of the drivers. And I think if you think about it this way, in the DeLand zone, we have a small zone. We have 7 vehicles that are deployed in that area. Those 7 people probably work or live in the area. You're going to have probably the same driver, especially if you're a repeat customer on a regular basis, and you're going to develop relationships with those people. I know people that already have. And in fact, we have many, many repeat customers, and they're building rapport with those drivers on a daily basis.
Can you help us understand, I don't want to call it limitations, but restraints of the program? I can't go and take a ride for $2 from Volusia to Orange County, for example.
Right. So it is a zone. So you can't go outside of the zone. You can't, it's a shame, but let's say there's a line drawn. If you're on the other side of the line, you actually can't book a trip. That's some things that we can't do much about unless we decide to, expand it at all, which we're not there yet. So that's a big limitation. We've had people that have tried to book a trip in an area that we don't cover. And so that and no, you can't go as far as you want to unless you want to transfer to a fixed route bus. And we have a lot of clients that do that too. They'll take the VoRide to the nearest transfer point, get on the fixed route, and go all the way to Daytona and spend the day at the beach.
And this overall, VoRide is a relatively new program for you and just a large transit agency to implement. Are you pleased with how ridership's going so far?
Yes, very. So we started on December 5th, and we're seeing more than 200 or 300 passengers a day. And so that's way exceeded our expectations. The nice bonus that we've also seen is some of those people are transferring to the fixed route bus, which is increasing the ridership on the fixed route as well.
Okay. Was that one of the goals?
It was not.
Okay.
It actually it was surprising, and it's a great accomplishment. We always want to see our fixed route buses be better utilized, and it really just goes to show that if the folks had access to the fixed route, maybe in the past, they would have used it more, and now they do. So it's perfect.
Have you gotten any kind of pushback from the existing rideshare companies out there?
No, I really haven't heard anything from anyone. I know there was initial concern about maybe how this would impact the taxi service. And so, especially in the DeLand area, and, we read where one of the taxi cab services actually commended us for bringing this into the area and thought it was such a novel, great idea to have. So I haven't heard anything bad.
Can you expand on that just for a bit? What need is being met that even the other services that exist say, yes, this is a good idea?
Well, I think it's the cost. It's the cost-effective method. I have no idea what a taxi cab ride would be for similar service, but I understand it is more. I know that we've tested a few trips to see what it would cost for an Uber, which is really a single ride share scenario, if that makes any sense.
Meaning I'm the only one in the car?
Right.
Okay.
That's an extremely higher cost. Our goal is to service our customers that need the assistance or that need the service. And so the unintended consequence, good or bad, is that it's serving everyone that feels the need for this service. And so beyond our usual customers, we're gaining additional customers as well.
Sounds like this is kind of addressing equity within transportation needs.
It definitely is. It definitely is. It's like I said, it's for everyone. It's also, somewhat environmentally friendly. It takes additional cars off the road. It helps people with the extreme expense of owning a car these days. So I think a lot of people are contemplating, using this more and maybe second car less.
Bobby King is the director of Volusia County's Transit Services Division, and the service expands from DeLand to include Orange City, Deltona, and DeBary on April 8th. This is Engage on 90.7 WMFE. Since its opening in 1971, Disney World has provided a magical experience for hundreds of millions of visitors. The experience for its employees hasn't necessarily been as magical.
There is a group of us back in the 90s and 80s that we are still family. We are extended family and we show up for each other regardless. And that's something that Disney gave to us, but we expanded on that. I think once they changed their systems, right, to become efficient, and they literally made people a number, where they touted the first name company and we're all family, and this is our production, this is what we together, this is our show. They gave everyone personnel numbers, and that really was the same timing where you could see it was much more of a corporation.
That was Donna Lynn Dalton, a former performer at Disney World and a Disney employee representative with the Teamsters Local 385 in Orlando, the union that organizes costumed Disney cast members. She's a focus of the book Mickey and the Teamsters, A Fight for Fair Unions at Disney. It's a chronicle of life as a Disney performer and the efforts to organize employees and create a safe, welcoming working environment. While the Teamsters provided occupational sanctuary for the Mickeys and the Goofies and Plutos of the park, the union itself was characterized as a rat's nest of greed and corruption. Mike Schneider is the author of Mickey and the Teamsters. He joined us to talk about the darker side of what Disney calls the happiest place on earth. Schneider began our discussion by identifying the disparity of having Disney performers joining the truckers' union.
What struck me as always very interesting was this relationship between the Teamsters union, which historically is a union for truckers, but in the latter half of the 20th century also was known for its corruption and associations with the mafia. And then, the connection with the costume character performers who are, these embodiment of childhood innocence and fantasy. And the fact that they had this marriage had always fascinated me. And then in the 2010s, the leadership of the union local here became more authoritarian and dictatorial. And I thought it would be a really interesting story to track this. And what happened was the members of this union and the costume character performers really pushed back and fought for union democracy at their union, and it went all the way to the top of the Teamsters, this fight. So I thought it was a fascinating story, both as a labor story, but also as a Disney story.
Can you talk about the conditions as a performer before unionization?
Well, I've known Donna Lynn for more than 20 years, and we both talked to this guy named Carl Crosland, who was the Teamster organizer that organized the costume character performers in the early 1980s. And he got on the job because he was approached by these performers in the tunnels underneath the Magic Kingdom saying that they wanted to join a labor union. And he thought, well, historically we're a union of truckers, but we do represent other workers, so it might be a little bit of a stretch, but it's not all that far-fetched. And so in organizing the performers, one of the things he found out was the biggest complaint for the performers was that the costumes were smelly and disgusting. And he made it his point to smell as many of these costumes as he could. And he said they were really terrible. And then the second biggest complaint was just kind of general harassment by guests. Say little kids would kick the shins of Captain Hook or other villains. And some of the adult guests would get a little handsy with the performers to see if it was a man or a woman underneath the costume. And so Carl promised that would stop and that they would have more workers out there, running interference with the performers. And his sales pitch worked because they voted to join the Teamsters in 1982.
You wrote that the Teamsters management in the 70s and 80s was a rat's nest. Can you elaborate?
With the local here in Orlando, they had a history. The first president of the union in the late 60s and 1970s, he was indicted and eventually convicted of organizing attacks against companies that had refused to recognize the union when workers had organized there. And then his son, who came a little bit after him, he was kicked out of the Teamsters for demanding kickbacks from the workers in order to get work. Say, if they wanted to work on a movie that was being made in Central Florida, he would ask them for money, and they would have to pay or play more or less. So there was a little bit of unsavory history to the local here.
Mike, you've been covering entertainment and tourism Central Florida for, more than 30 years? What was just the most maybe surprising revelation to you while you're doing the research for this book?
I don't know if there was a revelation, but there's a favorite story I have. And I always, it's one of my favorite Disney Orlando stories because it gets to how unique a community we live in. And it deals with a trial involving Tigger. And Tigger was a character performer who played Tigger, was charged with groping a teenager guest during a group photo. And he had a defense attorney who had worked at Disney World as a character performer. And so during the trial, this defense attorney brought in a costume of Tigger and put it on in front of the jurors and said, "This is my friend Tigger." And he puts on the head, puts on the gloves, puts on the bodysuit. And the purpose was to show that your vision is very limited. It's really hard to see peripherally. And it's hard to know what you're feeling when you have the gloves on. So he wanted to show this to the jurors. And then he also left the Tigger costume in the jury room during deliberations so that the jurors themselves could try it on if they wanted to. And the gambit worked because his client was acquitted and was spared the possibility of spending 15 years in prison.
Mike, who is this book for? Who would enjoy this story?
I would say there are two groups of people. First are Disney fans, people who love the parks and want to learn a little bit more about the behind-scenes elements of the Disney park experience for the workers. And the other are people interested in labor issues or unions, because this is a very unique workforce and very unique labor situation and a very unique, dynamic, say, between the character performers and their union.
Can you speak to just from where we were to today in 2024 about the Disney employee union relationship?
I always got the sense that in the early years, there was almost like this paternalistic relationship between the company and the workers, and the workers really believed in Disney and the company and what it stood for. And they always thought that the company was going to, they realized the company had to make money, but it was going to look after their interests. But I would say in the mid-'80s that changed. Part of it was because a strike in Disneyland in California kind of really hardened, I think, Disney management's attitudes towards union and labor, but also the workforce started getting a lot bigger in the 80s and 90s. And so in many ways, you became less of a person and maybe more of a number. I think that if you would ask a long timer, it would be this sense of like going from maybe feeling like a family, though I think many workers do still feel that their coworkers are family, to basically working for a corporation.
Mike Schneider is the author of Mickey and the Teamsters, available now from the University Press of Florida. Coming up, we stop by Jay Henry's in Parramore for a shave and a haircut. No longer 2 bits. You're listening to Engage 90.7 WMFE. You're listening to Engage on 90.7 WMFE. I'm Sharon Stone. Jay Henry's Barbershop is a pillar of Parramore. It's been a prominent gathering place in Orlando for more than 3 decades. Mr. Herman Baker is a longtime friend of the Henry family, and we talked to him while he was sitting at the shop yesterday.
It's an awesome feeling to be here because the simple fact of it, me and him go back, way back. So, and it's not only about the barbershop, he's been a friend. Man, we can sit outside, and I'm kind of country, so we can sit outside and we can chew the fat meat like no other, you understand what I'm saying? And a lot of time when I talk to him, he giving me a word of wisdom, or if I feel that the presence of the Lord done passed me by to talk to him, I'll drop off a little nugget to him. And we just like that right there. And as for his man in the chair, we all just sit here and kick it. You understand what I'm saying? A lot of times I don't get a haircut. I might get my beard trimmed, anything. But it's just the idea that the barbershop means so much to Parramore and to the peoples. It's really the people's barbershop.
People felt a void when Jay Henry's shop was destroyed by fire in 2021. It took more than 2 years to rebuild, and it just reopened. We talked to Jay Henry and one of his barbers, Leroy Owens, at the shop where the community is celebrating.
Thursday morning, I got a phone call from the city of Orlando that I was asked to cut Mayor Dyer's hair because he told me he wanted to be the first one to get his hair cut. And I'm like, cool, sounds great to me. So, of course, they met me down here about 3:30 Thursday afternoon, and Sherry Gutch, one of his staff members, called me up and said she wanted to get the mayor's haircut and stuff. And I said, hey, sure, bring him on down. I'd be glad to cut his hair. And she suggested that we do the ribbon cutting at the same time. And I'm like, whoa, sounds cool to me. So we'll do this. She said, well, we can open up now. And I'm like, cool, that'll work. Let's do it.
And that was Thursday?
That was just Thursday past.
So, yeah, we're coming up on 1 week being back open.
Yeah, pretty much.
How long have you been in this community?
Wow. Believe it or not, I was born in this community. I started cutting hair in this community in 1984 after graduating from barber school. Believe it or not, March the 27th of 1984. March 27th is coming up here shortly, in a few days. It's been a long time. So I've been here in the neighborhood since 1985 when I started cutting here, and then I moved away for a couple of on the west side of town, and then I came back around 91 when I started working in this barbershop.
What were the styles? What were you cutting then?
Believe it or not, it's so funny how history repeats itself, and there's really nothing new under the sun, just a new people thinking that it's new to them, the younger generation, but these same haircuts and styles, I was doing these haircuts 40 years ago. It just blows my mind to say that, but it's really true. It just give it a different name, same haircut, different name. A lot of the haircuts that we're doing now in 2024, if you look at the old pictures and movies and stuff, they was wearing the same haircuts back in the 50s and the 60s. Same haircut, different name.
What's old is new.
What's old is new. There's nothing new under the sun.
Talk to me about just what this place means to Parramore. This is when we walked in, you said, welcome home.
Yes. Well, with this place, I can tell you what it means to me. What it means to me is a dream come true for me. It's almost, it was like a oasis, if you will, in the desert. A young kid started off with a pair of clippers, a bar stool, a pillowcase around the customer's neck, some green alcohol after the haircut. This was back in 1981, 82, when I was in high school. And it was a dream come true for me to go on to barber school and get my barber license and come back to the neighborhood that, believe it or not, that I was born in, to cut hair here. It's amazing to me. I'm grateful. I'm humble.
Are your customers, are they all regulars?
You know, I tell you something about customers. A lot of the customers are regular that I've been cutting their hair for a long, long time, for years. A lot of the customers that their kids, their grandkids, been coming to this same location for a very long time. For a very long time. And it's so amazing how I cut one of my childhood seniors' hair today. He saw me on TV. His mother and my mother, they were great friends back in the 70s, if you will. And once he saw me on TV, he said, hey, man, he told his son-in-law, I got to go see Jay Henry. But they came down to the barbershop, and I cut his hair today, and they said, man, we know we're going to be getting our hair cut at. Right back here on the corner in Jay Henry's barbershop. And it just made me feel so great, man, to hear that and to feel it, because I know we're doing something right.
Today is all I want to do to celebrate just this milestone moment. But I remember it was 2021, wasn't it, when the fire?
Exactly.
Can you take me back to that moment?
November the 13th, 2021, around 12:30 that afternoon, that evening, that night, earlier that Saturday morning, I got a phone call from my wife. Baby, we got a problem. I'm like, what's going on? The barbershop is on fire. And I'm laying in the bed. I was asleep, and she was working down at the Camping World Stadium doing our Electric Daisy Carnival. And I said, baby, you got to be kidding me. She said, yeah, baby, it's true. We need you to come down to the barbershop. Of course, because she's the deputy chief of Orlando Police Department. So when she gave me that phone call, I know it was true because it was confirmed by her co-workers that was here on the scene. So I got up, I got dressed, and sure enough, it was the longest drive of my life because I couldn't get here fast enough. And once I got here, it was almost like in a movie. Streets blocked off, the community standing out on the sidewalk, the fire department here, the police here, my co-workers calling me, confirming the thought that the barbershop had caught fire. And once I got here, it was almost like, wow, this is really happening. So the closer I got here and I saw actually what was happening, it was crazy to me. Because think about it, it's right after COVID. We just getting back up and open, and now a fire. It's like, what am I going to do now? And I hear a still small voice. Just stand still for a moment in your spirit. See the salvation of the Lord. And my wife, she was here on the scene, and she whispered to me softly. She looked at me in the eyes, and she told me, baby, everything going to be all right. We're going to be all right. And it's just something funny about that. When your wife or your mother or your spouse or your father tell you that you're going to be all right, don't nothing else really matter, because those are the people that are there with you when you are not there for yourself sometimes. They're standing in the gap, speaking those words of life back into you and keeping you going. It meant a lot to me.
I also remember the outpouring of support from the community right in the aftermath.
Yeah. The outpouring, I got phone calls from people that I didn't even know was thinking about me. People started donating money and calling and bringing me money and sending money and donations. And man, it was just really, truly a blessing, because you never ever know how important you are or how much you mean to people from afar and close to you until things really, really, when tragedy hit. They were there. The community was there, even from the state level, the county level, the city level, and throughout the community. People were just there, sending me letters, sending money in the mail, calling, asking me what was my address. You know, seniors writing a little money out of their little checks that they get every month, just wanted to show love. And it was great for me. I appreciate it. And we made it happen. We collectively made it happen.
So in the aftermath, what did it mean to people to not have this gathering place? Did you hear from them that you couldn't wait for you to get back open?
Yes. Every single day from November the 13th, that night, the 14th, the following day of 2021, up until the day we opened, everywhere I went, people was asking me when the barbershop going to open, when y'all going to get back open. And at one time it started becoming annoying. But I had to flip it in my mind and say, they care. They care. And even if it don't appear that they care, they asking for a reason. And I had to embrace the fact that someone cared enough for me to continue to ask out of love and concern, when are we going to reopen? And that was very important to me. It meant a lot. Still means a lot, each and every moment.
What was the process just of rebuilding to get to where we are now?
The process of rebuilding to get to where we are now. The process to get to where we are now. Wow. I got a phone call from the city of Orlando, and the word was, J. Henry, we hear rumors that you are thinking about moving out of the Parramore community. And it was true, because I wanted to open back up soon as possible, somewhere. And I was comforted with the words that, J. Henry, we love you and we care about you. And we want you to stay in the Parramore community. And we are willing to assist you with the rebuilding of your barbershop. Because you are, and it's the real kicker, you are our J. Henry. And I was like, whoa, that is so cool. You know, and that's, I'm like, really? And not only with just words, they showed actions, because maybe a few days later, there was a grant that was given to J. Henry's Barbershop to comfort the situation going forward. And they assured me that if I made a commitment to stay in this location, they would assist the landlord, that they would, and I say this very humbly, on my behalf, help them rebuild the barbershop and the building. And I tell you something, I was at the city of Orlando once the grant was approved for X amount of dollars with a lot of zeros behind it. Hello.
What's it like sitting here today in this beautiful new, well, it's not new, rebuilt spot?
It's mind-blowing. You know, a lot of times we as a people, speaking of myself, but I'll say it the way I'm saying it, we get so anxious about the destination. But I'm here to tell you today, it's the miracles along the way. It's the little nuggets along the way that God continue to do things to assure you that He with you.
What are you hearing from people who walk by and see the sign that J. Henry's is back?
Oh, wow. It's crazy. It's crazy. People like, oh, man, I knew y'all was going to come back. I'm so happy to see you back. Congratulations. Man, God is good. Man, you say y'all was going to come back. Your friend Leroy said y'all was coming back. And Leroy said he was coming back, too. I got one of my buddies here right now, one of my old partners, CC. Man, I just had to come back. I just cut CC hair 25 years ago. And he's just right on the spot, one of my ace coon booms. He's just here doing his thing, supporting the situation. You know what I mean? Out of his love and support. Just means a million to me. Just his presence. It's amazing. It's really amazing. Seriously. Because you got people standing in the gap with you. No man is island by himself. Each of us need all of us. Just a person's presence and words of comfort and assurance is what really keep me going. So real, so right, so true.
J. Henry is the owner of J. Henry's Barbershop on Parramore Avenue, right across from the Orlando City and Pride Soccer Stadium downtown. That is all for today's edition of Engage. We'll be back Tuesday at 3. You can learn more about today's program by visiting our website, wmfe.org. Just a reminder, we want to hear from you. Let us know what you'd like to hear more about or what you're glad you heard. You can email us at engage@wmfe.org. Thank you for joining us. I'm Sharon Stone. All Things Considered is next. We leave you with the Barbers at J. Henry's with the song they created on Parramore. If you stop by the barbershop, you just may hear them singing along, celebrating their community.
Oh, Parramore, thank you, Mayor Demings. We appreciate you. Oh, Parramore, thank you, Byron Brooks. We appreciate you. Thank you, Sherry Gooch. Oh, Parramore. Thank you, Pauline Eaton. We love you. We appreciate you. On Parramore. Thank you to Faulkner family, the owners of the building. Thank you. On Parramore. Thank you the whole community for putting us here on Parramore, for contributing your love, your support. We're grateful on Parramore. Hallelujah. Thank you to my lovely wife on Parramore. Yo, man, we having a ball.
Yes.
Beautiful thing, huh?
Beautiful.